Pittsburgh Steelers fans, what's going on? This is Jeff Hartman, co-editor of BehindTheSteelCurtain.com with a special Steelers preview episode where we are actually looking ahead to the schedule release. The schedule was released about, a little over an hour ago. We're a little bit late because of me. I had a previous engagement. We'll call it a softball game because it was a softball game. If only I knew who scheduled those games and who put me there. Anyways, that's neither here nor there.
If only we knew that the schedule release was going to be on a Wednesday, which it never is.
All right, so let's with that, the guy that does the scheduling, Dave Schofield, co-editor Behind the Steel Curtain. What's up, Dave?
Hey, Jeff, good to see you finally made it.
Yes.
Did you even get to look at the schedule yet?
No, I'm taking a look at it now. So this is the first. I've only looked at the preseason, so
we get your knee-jerk reaction.
Yeah, seriously, the legitimate knee-jerk reaction. And then let's bring in Bryan Anthony Davis, who I guess we could also call him the old man who shakes fist at clouds. He was pretty upset today with all these leaks. You don't like leaks, right, Bryan?
I don't like WikiLeaks. I don't like a faucet leak. I don't like NFL schedule leaks. I don't even like when you guys post the name of the draft pick before Roger Goodell, Franco Harris, or whoever says it. I even block the screen so I can't find out because I don't go and look for my birthday presents, my Christmas presents. I didn't even want to know what the baby was. I want to be surprised every single time. And that includes paternity suits, but okay. Thank you, Dave. I appreciate it.
That's a bad joke.
But you know what? I mean, I don't know how you guys are like, I don't even know what the schedule is. I'm looking at it now. You've known all day. Every single hour we get.
That's not true because there were rumors that were wrong.
Yeah,
like there were people that said, "Here's the whole schedule," and so I was.
I knew it was wrong right away.
I was constantly looking and saying, "Okay, well that's right, and that's right." It was close, but there was a lot of wrong, but still, Bryan doesn't like that stuff. I think that this is the dumbest thing the NFL does. Not much that the NFL does is dumb, in my opinion. But it got even worse this year when they said, well, we're not going to release the schedule till 8 o'clock, but we're going to give you week 1 at 8 a.m. Like, come on, just in the morning next year, if they want to do, let us have the schedules at 8 a.m. Like literally 8 a.m. Eastern time, release the schedules, and then have your show at night where you're analyzing everything. Everyone's going to have already digested that information. I don't think they lose anything. I really don't. But this is one of those moments where I think the NFL could do themselves a favor. Heck, I remember as a kid, you didn't even know the schedule until you got one of those refrigerator magnets in the mail, or my dad was at a bar and got one of those ones that fits in his wallet. Like that's the only way that you actually knew the schedule, or the newspaper. You cut it out of the newspaper.
I cut it out.
Yeah,
and so now yellow ones for years. And
so now it's like it's an event. I get it, but still, we're gonna break it down for you every which way. Is it Tony's birthday today?
Yes, I think it is.
Because George gives us $2 and says, happy birthday, Tony D.
Well, maybe not. I mean, I think it's coming up.
I don't know.
I didn't see it on Facebook.
No.
Anyways,
there's someone else that's in the live chat that said
maybe
it was their birthday. I don't know.
Maybe there's another Tony D in the live chat. I don't know. Anyways. Okay, happy birthday to whoever Tony is. Maybe it is Defio. If it is, happy birthday, Tony. If it isn't, another Tony, happy birthday. Thank you for the tip, George, by the way. Let's look at the preseason. And I know a lot of people are like, Jeff, why are you talking about the preseason? I can only speak for myself here, but I actually am looking forward to this preseason.
Love it.
Because not only do the Steelers have a full allotment of 4 games, where everyone else has 3 except for the Cowboys, but there's so many players that we haven't really gotten to see at all. And whether you look at the 2020 draft class, it's Anthony McFarland, Antoine Brooks, Carlos Davis, those type of players. Even go back a year prior to, in 2019, and even guys like Lustin Jane, as we call him affectionately on this show, they haven't gotten a lot of repetitions. They've only had 1 preseason. So let's read through this real quick, and we'll get your quick reaction, and then we'll move on to the regular season. The Hall of Fame game versus the Dallas Cowboys, that'll be in Canton, Ohio on Thursday, August 6th. That's 8 p.m. That'll be a nationally televised game. That's the only thing I don't know, guys. If you know if any of these are going to be televised outside of the Hall of Fame game, let me know. Preseason week 1, they travel to Philadelphia Thursday, August 12th, 7:30 p.m. kick. Week 2, this is the 3rd game, but it's week 2 technically. They host the Detroit Lions. That's Saturday, August 21st, 7:30 p.m. I figure if there's one that's going to be televised, it might be that one. And then preseason week 3, the final week, at the Carolina Panthers. They keep it going. The final week of this regular season, it's always been Carolina, it seems like. And I was wondering with Rivera gone if that would still continue, and it looks like it has. Friday, August 27th, time to be determined. So, guys, what do you think about the preseason? Bryan, we'll start with you.
I'm fine with the preseason. It always seems to be the Philadelphia Eagles are going to be in there. And you're always going to see that other team, Carolina. It's like a homecoming game. It's every single year. That's your walk game. That's the get ready game. You're never going to see a significant Carolina Panther player or a significant Pittsburgh Steeler player in that game. But I don't expect that to change ever, because it's close. They're close enough to each other. And it's just like you always know that the Ravens and the Washington football team are probably going to play each other in that last preseason game as well. So it seems like that game is scheduled and it's going to be a constant. So as far as the preseason, I love the fact that you're going to see the Cowboys up first. I'm glad they honored that game from last year because they had a lot of fans to appease. But the preseason slate matters a lot to me, like it does to you, Jeff, and I know it matters to Dave, because I like to see these players. I want to see Carlos Davis with more significant action. I want to see all 9 of these guys that just got helmets, and especially the undrafted free agents that we're excited about. Shakur Brown and Mark Gilbert and Wade. I mean, Lamont Wade. We should be seeing a lot of these guys in action. We missed out on that last year, and it kind of set some people back because they didn't have an opportunity to get to know this team. We get to know this team real well because we have to delve into it. But for the fan that doesn't have the platform that we have and doesn't have to go ahead and look into it, there's a lot of these guys that they don't know, and they don't have the pleasure of learning and knowing who Kevin Dotson is. A lot of people found Kevin Dotson for the very first time in week 2 last year.
Yeah, that's a good point. And Dave, get your thoughts, but also answer this question on the preseason is, do you think, and this is from KMA Preston in the live chat, do you think having an extra preseason game is an advantage in 2021? So Dave, what are your thoughts on the preseason? And go ahead and answer that.
I'm going to say it is an advantage in 2021 as you make the adjustment. Well, I mean, 2020, there was none. So that whole thing just had everyone off. So if you're going back to try to get back to normal, you are looking at it being, 4 is what you were used to. So at least you're not playing the 5. And if they wanted to, they could kind of play it out like they normally would a 4-game preseason in the past, as they try to figure out and kind of see what other teams are doing. I mean, our team's going to sit their guys in week 3 and then really have them not playing for 3 weeks leading up into the regular season. I don't know that they'll do that or not, but I think the Steelers might because it's their 4th game. So I kind of like that as a little bit of an advantage. I was surprised that, I mean, even with the Hall of Fame game, it's all NFC opponents. I was really surprised that it was all NFC opponents for the preseason, and their single home game is against a team that they're already playing at home this year, which is someone who has season tickets. That's kind of not really exciting, because why do you want to go see the Lions for a preseason game when you could go see the Lions as a regular season game? So it's usually nice to get that extra team in there, but I mean, it is what it is.
I keep on forgetting, but we talk about the players that we're excited to see. To be honest, there's no one I'm more excited to see than Dwayne Haskins play in the preseason, because everyone wants to know, what is this guy going to bring to the table? Maybe it's nothing, maybe it's something. We'll find out in one of these games. I'm sure he's going to see significant snaps, as he should. And I think that, honestly, if I'm Mike Tomlin, that Cowboys game, he's playing a lot. And I don't need to see a lot of Mason Rudolph at this point. He's going to play, but I don't need to see a ton. It's going to be Dwayne Haskins' opportunity. So, all right, enough about the preseason. Those games don't even count. Let's get to the schedule. And this morning at 8 o'clock or so, I don't know, something like that in the morning, they announced that the Steelers will travel to the Buffalo Bills for a 1 o'clock start in week 1. And Tanya gives us $2.99 and says, do you think we finally beat the Bills this year? First, before we get to that question, Tanya, and thank you for the tip, This is the 7th straight season, correct, Dave? That the Steelers have started on the road. They are 3-2-1, I believe, in those games leading up to. What do you all think about this game? And you all both did your predictions, and neither of you had this game as week 1. You all both said Cleveland, I believe. What are your thoughts on this week 1 matchup? Dave, we'll start with you.
I'm not surprised it's on the road. I predicted them going on the road because the only thing that makes sense that the Steelers are opening on the road this many years in a row, no one said it, but the only thing that makes sense is that they ask for it. I mean, if that there's no other way to explain that.
Why would they ask for that, though? I mean, in your opinion.
Maybe they just feel after the preseason and everything, it's just easier to get focused as a team, to travel together and everything else, and not have sometimes it can be more distracting at home, they say, than it can be when you go on the road and you're completely immersed with everything with your own team. So maybe they ask that to get that right off the bat. That's just a theory I have, because otherwise it doesn't make sense for that to be the case. But I'm not surprised they're opening on the road. I'm surprised it's a 1:00 game. I thought if it was going to be someone like Cleveland or Buffalo or something like that, you can't complain having to go to Buffalo in September in the afternoon rather than going to Buffalo in December at night.
That's a big thing for me, and that's something I'm going to have to look at because I haven't even looked at the schedule yet. Playing a team like Buffalo and playing them early on the road is a huge advantage because, like you said, it gets cold. It's nasty up there. We'll get to predictions in a second here, folks, so hang tight. Brian, what do you think about week 1 at Buffalo?
Well, you know what? I actually had it week 2 at Buffalo on a Monday night game. So I'm thrilled that it's a 1 p.m. game, and I agree with Dave. I also agree with Dave. I thought the first second that he said it, and he said this to me before, when we were discussing the schedule and we do the article together, saying that they must be asking for it. I'm like, that is the most ridiculous thought. And then I thought about it. I'm like, he's got to be right. The more I thought about it, I mean, he's got to be right, because would the league continue to go ahead for 7 straight years and put this team on the road? I mean, I know we can get into the lone gunman theory and the second bullet and all this stuff that the league has it out for the Steelers, but come on. Wouldn't they look at this and say, all right, we got to balance this out maybe 3-4 years ago? So I'm almost thinking Dave's right there. But as far as Buffalo goes, that's a very tough game, but we know the schedule is going to be tough. No matter where you put anybody, they're going to be tough if it's a good team. The Steelers probably have a better chance to beat this team not in prime time on the road. They have a better chance at the 1:00 game.
Yeah, this is going to be a tough one. If the Steelers have any advantage here, it's the pressure's not on them. They lost to the Bills last year. I think that if you want some bulletin board material, you can go back to Alan's comments about let them do the dancing and we're going to go out, blah, blah. You can bring that up if you want. But I think also Matt Canada, no one knows what this is going to look like. I would expect a very vanilla offense in the preseason, and then who knows what to expect. So the Bills, it almost felt like last season they were ready to tee off on everything the Steelers were doing offensively because Fichtner was so predictable. That's something we've talked about ad nauseum. But still, if there's an advantage, I think that's where it is. So let's do some predictions here. Dave, are you ready?
But to write these down?
Yes, to write these down.
I'm ready to write these down. We'll let Bryan go first.
All right. So we do know that the spread has already been released. The Bills are 6.5-point favorites in this game. Dave,
I've seen it from I saw 5.5. I saw 5.5. I saw 6, and I saw 6.5.
Let's go 6.5. That's what I wrote that article. That's what we're going to go with. So Brian,
we're not going against the spread.
Right? We're not going against the spread, even though that's more fun. All right, Brian. Straight up, who wins this game? Pittsburgh or Buffalo?
Actually, going to say Pittsburgh.
Ooh.
I think they're going to start off strong.
Okay, I like it. I'm going to go with looking at the upcoming games here. I'm going to go with the W. I have to, like you said, I think they come out of the gate strong, and I think they're going to surprise some people. It's not going to be tough. It's not going to be pretty. If they lose the game, I think it's going to be close, but I think they win this one and start off 1-0. Dave, what about you?
I'm going to go ahead and pencil that in as an L, because it's not that I don't think that they can beat them. It's just You've got a new offensive coordinator. You've got new pieces on the offensive line. You haven't seen them play together. You'll get a much better feel after the preseason going into this game. But right now, not seeing them on the field together with their new pieces, I'm going to say it takes them at least a game to get things completely together. If anything brings it together, though, it could be that defense, man, because that defense shut down the Bills in that first half of that game, where the only points, I mean, they gave up a field goal and then a pick six with a missed extra point. And I mean, if the defense can come out and shut it down, that's great. But I'm not looking for amazing things. I'm not looking for it to click on all cylinders the very first game, and that's the only reason I'm penciling it as a loss. But I do think that they'll at least cover the spread, and I might feel completely different of that after they get out on the field and get working together.
Well, and we're probably going to feel a lot different by the time this game rolls around anyways. Yes. But still, let's go to week 2, where it doesn't sound the same. The Las Vegas Raiders. It just doesn't sound the same, but it's still the Raiders. It's still the Steelers at Heinz Field in week 2. The Raiders.
Can I say something about this real quick?
Sure.
Yeah, I got this one right.
Yeah, he did.
Okay.
I picked Vegas week 2, a home opener.
Congratulations. You win.
I think it's the only one either of us got right all season.
You win an invitation to write the same article next year. All right. So week 2, 1:00 kick. Another 1:00, guys. I love these 1:00 kicks. Bryan, what are your thoughts on the Raiders game?
Home opener. I know it's optimistic. No, the Raiders are tough too, but I got to give the Steelers another victory here.
We haven't gotten to the predictions yet. We were just talking about the game.
Oh, I thought we were doing predictions.
Are we just doing like rapid fire picks? That's fine. We can do that too.
Oh, no, it's, this is a good home opener. They did this back in 2002 when they started off against the world champion Patriots on the road, and they came back home and lost to the Raiders when they were, I guess they were Oakland at the time. Tony Defeo and I were not together because we didn't know each other then. We were both in the park there. And that is when Lynn Swann dissed me in the third quarter all alone in the quarter when I just tried to say hello. And that's it. He just completely snubbed me. So it took me a long time to get over that. That's why I don't own his jersey right now. And I didn't vote for him for governor for that reason, because he pissed me off. But with that being said,
you don't live in that state.
I did at the time.
Oh, you did? Okay, I'm sorry.
I was at the time.
Okay.
Absentee ballot.
But I will tell you all this. Jeff, now you want to go back to rapid fire after that long soliloquy?
Yeah.
No, that was perfect. That's all I want to talk about. Okay, Dave, what are your thoughts on the Raiders game? You got it right. We all know that.
I think that I got it right. It seemed like it was a reasonable choice to have the Steelers, if they were going to open on the road, to give them, a middle of the road team from last year. They finished 8-8 last year. So it's not a team that can't come in there and beat the Steelers, but it's also not a team that's going to come in and be favored to beat the Steelers. If they're going to make them open on the road 7 straight years, you got to give them, not the worst, the most difficult game left on the schedule the very next week.
I have absolutely no idea, no thought, no gut feeling about the Raiders since they moved to Las Vegas. I mean, Darren Waller is tremendous, but they beat the Chiefs last year, but then they lose that game they beat the Jets barely. I mean, I don't even know. This is just one of those games where you're like, I can see it going either way, but let's do our predictions now. Bryan, you said you think the Raiders win this game. Is that correct?
No, the Steelers.
Oh, Steelers.
The Steelers will win this one too.
All right. I do think the Steelers are going to win. The home opener is typically pretty special. The Raiders, someone said in the live chat they're going to be on a short week. I'm not sure if that's true or not, because again, I haven't even seen the Steelers' full schedule.
Yes, they open up hosting the
Ravens. Yeah.
Oh, is that on Monday night?
Yeah.
Yep.
And so then they have to travel on a short week. It's a 1:00 kick. It's a West Coast team. I'll take the Steelers to win this one. What about you, Dave?
And that's my exact reasoning as well. Home opener. I saw good things from the Steelers in home openers, the ones that I've been to. I was at that San Fran one. Man, that was something when Brian Shazier was just all over the field. But yeah, 1:00 start, them after a Monday night game. I think the Steelers start to get some things together. And I'm still thinking that it's the defense that's carrying this team all season. So I'm going to say W.
Okay. Going to week 3, the Steelers stay at home. They host their first AFC North matchup against the Cincinnati Bengals. We'll assume it's Joe Burrow if he's able to be playing at that point, or if he's still healthy. I don't know. They passed on that offensive tackle. But anyways, the Bengals are coming to Heinz Field. Brian, what's your gut thought on this one? People forget the Bengals actually beat the Steelers last year, something the Ravens can't say, but go ahead.
And they beat them without. That's true. I like that.
Oh, it's true. It's true.
Go ahead, Brian.
You know what? I like the fact that they're giving you an opportunity to play the Bengals early. Get the Tiger King Joe Burrow early if he's able to play. But I don't know if I'm going to go ahead and do the prediction now, but let me throw it out there. I think this is going to be a tougher game than anybody thinks, and I'm actually going to go ahead and pencil in the Bengals for a win.
Okay. The Bengals are the Bengals. Joe Burrow is just the next guy. You call him the Tiger King. I get it, but I don't get it. So I think that for me, I think the Steelers are going to be very focused in this game, and I see them winning this contest. They're not going to forget about the Monday night game last year. I'm going to say the Steelers win. What about you, Dave?
Yeah, you're giving a lot of the same reasons that I do. That I think that the Steelers will get this one just because. They're not good. You can't forget about that loss last year. That changed so much of their season. That was basically the low of the low in the regular season, in my opinion. So you're not going to take this team lightly, and it's AFC North football. You gotta love that first AFC North matchup of the season. So therefore, I don't know that it's going to be a blowout, but I think the Steelers will win.
All right. So now we head to the quarter pole here in week 4. And the Steelers go back on the road. They're going to Lambeau Field. And this one is a 4:25 kickoff, which tells me it's probably going to be nationally televised on CBS because the Steelers are the visiting team. And this is October 3rd. So week 4, Steelers at Pack in Lambeau. Brian, what do you think?
So I'm actually surprised about this game being this early. And I'm thinking about past schedules. And I'll never forget 1992 when the Steelers started off 3-0 and they ended up playing the Packers in Lambeau against Brett Favre in his first NFL start. And he won that game. They actually embarrassed the Steelers in that game. But it's kind of seems like with the Raiders going back to 2002, opening with them, opening with the Buffalo Bills like they did in 1978, the 2006 with having Cincinnati at home. It seems like they're taking pieces of old schedules and putting them in, and I don't know why I remember this stuff, but I remember week 4 of 1992. But I'm thinking in this game, I'm wondering if there's going to be an Aaron Rodgers in this game, so that completely changes that. But before I get to that, this is a game that I was thinking was going to be on Christmas Day. And Green Bay did get the Christmas Day game against an AFC North team, but it's the team, the darling that everybody loves right now. Everybody loves the Cleveland Browns. The NFL has it for this team. They actually love this team right now, and they want to push them all the way. They're the darlings right now until we realize that they're the Browns, and you flush it down when it's Brown. And I taught my son that, and that's all he says now when he hears Cleveland. But what I'm saying here is I really thought it would be Pittsburgh and Green Bay on Christmas. I'm glad it's not. But it just seems like they're the darling team right now, so they moved this early in the year. Just like Buffalo, you don't want to go to Green Bay in December. So going there October 3rd, a game that I'd actually like to try to go to, would be fantastic.
Okay, for me, this is a tough one, and it all hinges on Aaron Rodgers. If Aaron Rodgers is there, it is completely different for obvious reasons. Someone said that the Packers just signed Blake Bortles, who
they signed him today.
That guy is a hero in my own heart. Just after the interview where they said, what would you do if you weren't a quarterback in the NFL? He goes, I don't know, probably work construction, ripping cigs. It's one of the best interviews. It's like a crib style, except it's like the local news. It's not even MTV. Anyways, that's just funny. I want to tell that story. ripping cigs. So if they play Blake Bortles, I really like the Steelers' chances. But if they don't, I think this is going to be a tough one. I actually see the Steelers losing this game. I'm assuming Aaron Rodgers is going to play. I think this is all pomp and circumstance with him anyways. He's challenging the team. I don't think he's going to sit out. So I'm going to say this is the Steelers' first loss of the season in Lambeau against Aaron Rodgers and the Packers. What about you, Dave?
Well, did Bryan say if he predicted a win or loss?
What did you say, Bryan? He did say. He said a W. Okay.
Yeah, Aaron Rodgers is not playing.
Gotcha. Well, I'm going to – well, first of all, I want to say this. When it came to predicting the schedule, there was certain things that I did that I penciled in. And I penciled in road games against the NFC North. And I penciled them in week 4 and week 14, which is exactly what happened. I just got which team it was backwards. I had it being at Minnesota now and at Green Bay later on. And here it's the other way around. So I kind of like Green Bay in this spot in this week 4 going in there. I mean, I got to look. Is the date on that one? Are you in October yet?
Yeah, October 3rd.
October 3rd. I like the Steelers with October football. And you're going there, 425, all the hype. Even if it is Aaron Rodgers, I'm actually going to take the W here for the Steelers. Okay. And just because I remember back the last time they played at Lambeau Field, well, I'm pretty sure it was the last time, where they were barely hanging on to try to make the playoffs, and they're there playing in the snow. And it was was it week 16?
That was against the core because Aaron Rodgers was hurt, and that was against one of my heroes. Gosh, what's his name? Mm-hmm. Oh, he played the end of that season for Green Bay, turned it into a huge contract with Seattle.
Flynn.
And then yeah, Matt. Was it Matt Flynn?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
This dude has made millions of dollars holding a clipboard. I mean, he's like the Bobby Bonilla of the NFL. So that was the last time. The most memorable game I remember at Lambeau was when they sacked Brett Favre. Troy Polamalu picks up the fumble and he runs it back for a touchdown. That was a pretty legendary game too. But still, you said win, right, Dave?
Yeah. So I'm going to go win. So all three of us have the Steelers going 3-1 through the first 4 games.
Okay, different methodology. And by the way, the greatest Steelers-Packers game ever was the game that literally was a walk-off touchdown pass from Ben to Mike Wallace in the corner of the end zone. I think both Aaron Rodgers and Ben Roethlisberger threw for over 400 yards or something insane. Did Ben throw for? He threw for.
I don't think he threw for 500, but did he have 5 touchdowns or something like that?
Something like
Ben
that.
had 502, if I'm not
502. Yeah,
it was insane. That game was literally just up and down the field. I think that I want to say the Steelers' first play. Field, right? It was. Yeah. I think I want to say the first play that from the Steelers from scrimmage was like a bomb to Mike Wallace for a touchdown, and it just went off the rails from there. Okay.
Hey, so you know what?
Good.
Let me just tell you this. Why don't you go back and find an old Pittsburgh Steelers BTSC retro show? And that game is on. That's one we did.
When was that? When did you all do that? So if people want to look for it.
Maybe about 2 months ago, but I can find the date for you.
Yeah, do it. It's a good listen. I'm sure I've listened to those shows. All right, so we all have them 3-1. We'll have them going about it in a different way. And so the Steelers come back to Heinz Field. Week 5, the Denver Broncos. This is second straight.
Face Aaron Rodgers. Sorry.
Again, back-to-back weeks. So the Denver Broncos in Pittsburgh for the second straight year. We all remember they were there last year. And October 10th, 1 o'clock kickoff. Bryan, thoughts about the Denver Broncos coming to town?
Man, it's great to have the Broncos back-to-back because that is a place that the Steelers do not play well at all. Probably one of their worst records against a team that wasn't an old NFL team like the Chicago Bears or the Eagles, where they're never going to have a winning record against teams like that because they played so many times in the 40s and 50s and they were terrible. Remember the Broncos came in the 1960s, and this is a modern era, more of a modern era team. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, the Steelers have a 12-20 record against Denver, and they don't play well against them at all, especially at Mile High. So this is a nice thing that it's in Pittsburgh for the second year in a row. I'm going to go ahead and give the Steelers a win in this game. I think Denver's getting dangerous, but I'm going to go for the victory here.
Okay, coming back to Pittsburgh, I had them losing in Green Bay, so that's a little bit of motivation. I don't see them dropping 2 games in a row. Denver, they did draft one of my favorite player in the 2021 draft. They did get Javonte Williams from North Carolina. So he's that little bowling ball, will be tough to bring down. But still, the Steelers defense will have their hands full. Drew Lock, will he be the quarterback? Who knows? A lot can change between now and the season starting, folks. This is very early predictions, but still, I think the Steelers win this game. What about you, Dave?
Yeah, this is one of those games that if the Steelers don't win it, then their season's in trouble. This is going to be even though they'll still have a record, you just look at, from what we would say, they would still have a winning record for what we predicted. But this is a stretch where you're starting to get into some interesting games that you've got to win them while you can win them. So this is one that they need to go out there and take care of business coming back home against the Broncos. But believe it or not, I'm going to take the W, but this one actually scares me more than some of the others.
All right. And right before the bye week, this is week 6. The Seattle Seahawks, this is that 17th game. They come to Pittsburgh. And the last time the Seahawks were in Pittsburgh was when Ben Roethlisberger destroyed his elbow in 2019, and that was in week 2. This game is NBC, Sunday Night Football, 8:20 kickoff. Steelers host the Seahawks. Bryan, what are your thoughts on this game?
I always think it's a good matchup when the Steelers play the Seattle Seahawks. When I say good matchup, just a great football matchup for the entire NFL and fans. It's a good watch. They always tend to have pretty good games when they play each other. I kind of think that this being on prime time and it being Russell Wilson and with what went down last time, I can still see that lingering. So I'm going to go ahead and give the loss to the Steelers. The home field advantage is not going to be enough this time around. So we'll say no.
All right. This is a tough one because DK Metcalf is a monster in his own right. I think that the Seattle Seahawks are a team they're always going to be difficult to beat as long as Russell Wilson is a quarterback. I do have questions about their defense, but still, this is going to be a tough game. I actually think the Steelers rise up on primetime. This is their first primetime game of the season. I think that's special. It's at home heading into the bye week. I think they win. They find a way to win. It might be ugly, but they find a way to win. I have them winning this game. What about you, Dave?
What did Bryan have again? I started listening to Jeff.
He had a loss.
That's what I thought. Okay. I'm going loss here as well because for some reason between the two games of Denver and Seattle, I have them going 1-1. And if they're going to, you know what I'm saying? If they lose to Denver, I would think they would bounce back against Seattle, but I have them beating Denver. So for some reason, I just kind of have that. Seattle's, although though probably about that time is when they'll have 2 losses. So sorry, couldn't help myself, but that's, I'm just going to put it out there because when I break it down into quarters, I don't know. Yeah, I'm going to go with the loss on that one.
All right. Okay.
But honestly, I'm afraid Rich is going to take Kyle to see Seattle again, which means they would lose. I forgot to check with Rich to see which games Kyle was going to, so that way I would know to pencil those in. So, sorry.
All right. So no, that's fine. So the Steelers were hoping they actually get a bye week this year, unlike in 2020 where they did not get a bye week. So this bye week is in week 7, and we are going to take a quick break. And we're going to take a mini bye week for those on the audio side. Just join us over on part 2. We'll pick up in week 8 for another AFC North matchup. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. All right, Pittsburgh Steelers fans, welcome back to the second segment of the Steelers Preview. I'm Jeff Hartman, co-editor of BehindTheSteelCurtain.com, joined by our podcast producer, Bryan Anthony Davis, and on the other co-editor, Dave Schofield. A special Wednesday edition of the Steelers Preview as the NFL released their 2021 regular season schedule, and we are almost halfway through. The Steelers have a bye week in week 7. Before we even talk about week 8, gentlemen, I want to get your thoughts. This is always the first thing I typically look for, except for this year. I'm looking at week by week. First thing I do, where's the bye? And that's something my dad used to always do. Where's the bye week? Where's the bye week? And I remember one year they had a bye in like week 4, and you're just thinking, it's way too early. It's way too early. Guys, week 7. Bryan, you okay with the bye week in week 7?
Absolutely not. And this is where I'm going to go back to last year. And I'm going to say this. Week 7 bye last year. And everybody knows that the Steelers, with the COVID situation, I know I mean, COVID was a pandemic, and I understand the whole situation. But with what happened in Tennessee, it was negligence. What happened with Baltimore for the Thanksgiving game, it was negligence on those other teams' part. And the Steelers really essentially did not have a bye week last year at all. Yeah. They missed out on two situations where they did not get a chance to rest. And they didn't, because those games leading up to those games, they were practicing. Even though they had that week off, they were still practicing. They did not get to enjoy any time off like every single other team got a chance to do. And they didn't punish those other teams except for a measly $250,000 here and there. So this is one of those things when you're looking at the schedule, when you're in the room, it's like, hey, guys, ladies, when we're putting the schedule together, remember what happened to the Steelers last year. Let's make sure you put them around week 11 or something, or week 10. Do something like that. Just keep that in mind when you're doing the schedule. Now, let's give them week 7. Boom. So there is no makeup for last year at all. Not saying that a team deserves it, but I think in this situation, yeah, you got to help a team out.
Okay. All right. No, that's fine. Dave, what about you? Week 7, good?
I thought, well, it's not that terrible when I first looked at it. And then the more I thought about it, the worse it got. I mean, 11 straight games to finish the season. 11 straight games to finish the season. You know, I don't like it. I said it before, I wanted to look at that bye week and see double digits. I wanted to see how that was going to work out. And it didn't. I thought maybe that the NFL would kind of take care of that because of the situation last year, but we should know better than that. So it's not the most, I haven't looked at other teams' schedules. Do we even know if other teams have earlier bye weeks? You know,
I don't know, but I would assume they do.
I was assuming they would start buys later than normal because, like I said, in essence, every team is getting a week 0 bye because you don't have that last preseason game. So I mean, if you had a bye week in week 4 or 5, that would be awful with as many weeks as you have left in the season. So week 7, not a big fan of it, but hopefully you could at least plan on getting it this year.
Well, let's ask Mike Tomlin what he thinks. We do not care is what he's going to say. So, all right, let's go to week 8. The Steelers travel coming off their bye week. They have a division game, which this is going to be a big one. This is going to have a lot of hype to it. That's their first game against the Cleveland Browns. 1:00 start. I'm surprised this is not a primetime game, but still 1:00 Sunday, October 31st. That's Halloween for those that don't know. Gentlemen, what do you think about this? We'll start with you, Bryan.
Well, the Browns already have their Halloween costumes all made up, a bunch of jerks. So that's what they're going on collectively as. So remember, when it's brown, flush it down. I absolutely hate this team now. I even hate them more than I hate the Ravens for many a reason, because of my disgust for Baker Mayfield. I just don't like this. I just don't like the idea of this game being in Cleveland with all of those complete maniacs. I'm going to go ahead and pencil in the loss for them. I do want to go ahead and make a comment about something that we were talking about earlier, the Seattle game with Kyle possibly going to this game. Instead of hashtag pay Kyle, it needs to be hashtag stay Kyle. So we need to think about that for that game. I just didn't get a chance to bring it up. Also, I want to bring up the Ravens bye week is week 8. So that will be this week when the Steelers are taking on the Cleveland Browns. I just don't like anything about this game. It's the fact that they hate Pittsburgh more than Pittsburgh hates them, and they get all crazy for this game. And I just think they have some momentum with this little bit of a win streak, and I think that streak is going to continue. I hate to say it.
All right, this is a game that, the Steelers, the last time in Cleveland was the regular season finale last year, where a lot of starters didn't even travel with the team. They stayed in Pittsburgh. And so I'm not going to reflect back on that too much, but trust me that the Steelers and Browns, there's not going to this is one of those games where Mike Tomlin will say, if you need motivation for this game, you're in the wrong profession. And I agree with that 100%. There's not going to be any love lost between these two teams, but the Steelers are going to want to send a message. I think they go on the road and win this game. The next game is a different story, but still, I think they win this game. What about you, Dave?
Yeah, it's interesting because I was like, the Steelers generally start slow offensively coming out of the bye, but like I said, I think it's the defense that's going to kind of rule the day for them. And I'm like, oh, I like them coming out of the bye, going to Cleveland. But here's the other thing that stinks. The Browns, they're going to have 10 days off because they play on Thursday the week before. So that's not as much as an advantage. But you know what? Before I found out that they had a Thursday game, I was going to give the Steelers the win. I'm going to. I think this team is going to just really have a grudge against this Browns team, and that they're just going to want to go out and smack them down like they did the first time they played them last year.
All right. So let's go to this. Would put the Steelers at the halfway point after week 9. That would be 8 total games. So let's go with the Chicago Bears coming to Pittsburgh. The Steelers head back to Heinz Field. And the Bears, we figure Justin Fields will probably be the quarterback of that team. Rookie quarterback on the road. Monday Night Football, ESPN, 8:15 p.m. kickoff. Bryan, what do you think about this at Heinz Field? Another primetime game.
Well, the last time the Steelers played a primetime game against the Chicago Bears in Pittsburgh, the fan of the game was a man named Jeff Hartman.
I was there. That's right. I was on the Sunday Night Football bus and everything that weekend.
And the Steelers went home with a horrendous loss. Stayed home with a horrendous loss.
It was awful.
It was terrible. This time around, the powers that be figure, hey, let's put Pittsburgh and Chicago on Monday Night Football where you can't flex them out. So you're stuck with this game.
Actually, you can.
Monday Night Football, you can flex out?
This year, yep.
Really?
Starting in I don't think it starts yet in week 9, though. I'd have to look at when they can start it. But they are actually flexing Monday Night Football games this year.
Good.
Wow.
Yeah.
Good.
Okay.
That's huge.
There goes my entire joke, but I'm glad you told me that because I didn't know. That's amazing because the Monday Night Football matchups have been horrendous lately, and you can't touch them. And I love the fact that you can flex a late game. That's awesome. But Jeff's not going to be there. Jeff's not the fan of the game. So maybe the Steelers will get right in this game, taking on Mr. Fields of Dream. Let's give them a win.
All right.
I just looked it up. It's week 12. They're allowed to start flexing them. So this one will stay on Monday night.
All right.
But the ones later in the season, not necessarily.
If Justin Fields is the quarterback, I feel like he's going to be running for his life in this game. I do like the Steelers on Monday night. They won. They split on Monday night last year. They won in week 1, then lost to Cincinnati and Cincinnati later in the season. But still, I like the Steelers in week 9 beating the Bears. I feel like the Bears are getting better, but the most important position is quarterback, and that's what they have a rookie. What about you, Dave?
I'm going to go with the W as well. Throwing that out there just because if I had them lose their first primetime game at home, I'm not going to have them lose their second primetime game at home. So that's why I'm going with the W on this one. So, and I have to admit, I had another Seattle has 2 losses moment because I was looking up that Monday Night Football thing for Bryan. Bryan, did you have a win or a loss?
I had a win.
Okay, yeah. I thought so. I just didn't want to get wrong. We all have different records for this quarter, for this next set. So Jeff, with his ever optimistic 4-0 in the second quarter of the season, I will have them at 3-1, and Bryan has them 2-2.
So total it up at the halfway point. I have them at 8 and
or 7-1.
7-1.
I have them at 6-2, and Bryan has them at 5-3.
All right. I'd probably be happy with all 3 of those records anyways. All right, so let's go to week 10. We talked about this briefly at the beginning of the show when we talked about the preseason matchup. The Lions, a 1:00 kickoff on Fox. Remember, the visiting team typically carries the coverage, so the Lions are on the road. That's Fox. They go to Pittsburgh to play at Heinz Field, so the Steelers are at Heinz Field for back-to-back games here. What do you think about this one, Bryan?
Is Jared as Goffle as everybody thinks he is? I don't know.
Oh, geez, that's bad.
I know. I hate myself for saying it, but you got to do it. Look, this is a get-right game. Even though I have them winning the week before, you got to have some gimmies on the schedule. And I know in the National Football League, you really can't say that there's gimmies, but the Steelers are not a 2-15 team. as some people would think they are. I think this is, you got to pencil a game in that there's no reason that they should lose this game. They should actually be favored in this game. So I'm going to go ahead and say absolutely this is the one win. If you're going to have them going 1-16, you still circle this game.
Yeah, I think that this is a game again where if you're looking down the list, like you said, Brian, and you're like, okay, I could probably say that there's probably a good chance they win this one, then it's this game. However, those are the games that typically end up a little bit sideways. I think this is a close game. I think it's an ugly game, but I do think the Steelers win. Dave, you?
Yeah, I have a win as well because the last time the Lions visited Heinz Field, that was the first time I took my father to a game at Heinz Field where we were there together, saw Megatron like right in front of us. And that was a crazy good game. It's just something about the Lions and the Steelers. I'm going to go with the win there.
All right. So then the Steelers go on the road, and this is another primetime game. So we're seeing a lot of primetime games early on. I'm in the middle of the schedule, though, at this point. Sunday, November 21st, Sunday Night Football, NBC. The Steelers go out to L.A. They actually have a real football stadium this time to play the Chargers. So a little Matt Filer reunion. Brian, thoughts on this Week 11 matchup in primetime?
Well, is this game actually on the road? Because it is in Los Angeles, and you are going to have 75% Steeler fans there. I went to a game in San Diego in 2005, the one when Ben Roethlisberger got hurt and Debo he
jumped over LT.
Jumped over,
yep.
Yeah, and it was just absolutely fantastic. I really love talking about that game. It was such a fun time. Jeff Reed finishes it at the end, but to start that game, it was the first Monday Night Football game for the Chargers in 9 years, and they pulled out all the stops, and all the Steeler fans they were crazy there, and they were so loud, and they were loud the last time when Duck Hodges started that game 2 years ago. That I believe they even played Renegade, and the Chargers players were really upset. But this woman comes out. She's a public address announcer, and she says, "All right, everybody, when your Chargers come out and it's on Monday Night Football, we're going to have this drill sergeant say, 'Are you ready?' And then you go, 'Are you ready?' And you grab your Chargers towel," because they gave these 100% chance of lightning washcloths out to everybody in attendance. And I got one too. And it was this tiny washcloth. So they would wave this white towel. And as soon as they said, "Wave your white towel," the Steelers fans, the towels came out. And it was half the stadium. And it was so loud. "Here we go, Steelers. Here we go." This woman started stuttering and just left the field. It was a thing of beauty. And I see this happening again, this being a home field advantage. But the Chargers are a very tough team. They are a lot better than anybody thinks. They're getting this together. They're getting protection for Herbert. I think they're going to be good. I still going to go with the Steelers in primetime over the Chargers.
All right, so this was the game where I guess I learned what being rickrolled was. Am I correct, Dave?
Yes.
I learned what that was.
That was the rickroll game.
I didn't even know what that was. I still remember every time I think of the Chargers, I think of Arnold Schwarzenegger, the "Go Chargers, go." I didn't all that when he was the governor of California.
That was the game.
Well, is that the same game? Yep. Okay. And then the Chargers being in LA still is stupid. But anyways, they're an up-and-coming team, and they're very tough. I think this is going to be a tough game for the Steelers. I actually am going to have the Steelers losing this one. Herbert is a special talent. For some reason, people didn't see it when he was drafted, but the Chargers did. They took him, and he is – I feel like this could be a shootout, but I think they're going to lose one of these type of games. It's just going to be kind of back and forth. I'll have it be this one. What about you, Dave?
Yeah, for some reason, after losing a primetime game early, I started on a roll where they were going to win some of them. So because this is a primetime game, it just feels like the last time they were out there. That's why I'm just going to mark it down as a win, but it's not like I'm going to go out and bet the house on this one.
All right. Week 12, the Pittsburgh Steelers travel to the worst state in the country. It's Ohio, and it's to the Cincinnati Bengals. This is a 1:00 kickoff, Sunday, November 28th. Brian, thoughts on this rematch with the Bengals?
I hate that cesspool known as the jungle. I absolutely hate that place. I was in a hotel room in Kentucky that looked. I would open my window and I could look into the stadium, and it was great because the last game in that stadium that was played at that point was a wild card game in 2005 or 2006, and I had visions of Kimo von Olafen rolling up one Carson Palmer, and that was good memories. But just the fact that I looked into that crappy stadium just ticked me off. I hate the Bengals. I hate everything about this team too, just like I hate the Browns. So I'm starting to hate Ohio.
Yes.
I hate Drew Perry now. I just don't like Ohio. You're putting chili on pasta. No, don't stop that. Only thing good that came out of Cincinnati was WKRP, and that was actually out of Hollywood, so it doesn't matter either. So what I'm saying is they've got to play there once a year. The last time they played there, it was just a debacle. It's not going to be a debacle again. The Steelers got to win this game, and I don't care whether it's Joe Burrow or Joe Montana, quarterback of this game. In Cincinnati, Steelers are winning.
Cue up the Escalooser. They're going to be using it a lot in this game. I have the Steelers winning this one. Dave, what about you?
Okay, so Bryan had a win. Jeff had a win.
Yeah.
Bryan brought up the WKRP at Cincinnati. This just so happens to be the game over Thanksgiving weekend, so I have to say it. As God is witness, I thought turkeys could fly. I'm going with a win.
Good one. Good one. All right. Now to finish out the third quarter, it's the big one. It's a back-to-back divisional game, but it's the Ravens, and it's at Pittsburgh. It's a 4:25 p.m. kickoff. That means it's probably going to be a national game unless you have another game in your viewing area. Sunday, December 5th. Wow, they wait till week 13 till their first Ravens game. Bryan, what are your thoughts on the first time the Ratbirds come to town?
That's odd because they usually play each other around week 4, week 5 every single year, and now they're waiting. So, man, they definitely are backloading the schedule with some really, really good matchups. I think TV-wise, this is a fantastic game. I think it's going to be a good game regardless. I know it's at home. You know, you really look at the Steelers when they play the Ravens that you want to have home field advantage. That home field advantage doesn't always mean something in this series. So I'm actually going to say that the Baltimore Ravens go ahead and snap the Steelers' 4-game winning streak, and they make the rematch mean so much more. So Steelers loss, unfortunately.
Okay. This is a game where I do see them splitting this year, but I don't think they lose at home. Mr. Villanueva meet Mr. Watt. They meet Mr. Hayward, whichever side of the line he's playing on. It could be Stephon Tuitt. I think that could be some issues for them if Big Al is called into duty. And so I think the Steelers win this game, believe it or not. What about you, Dave?
I just am looking at my picks and how they're going, and I just kind of see after the Steelers, I have them running off 5 straight wins. They come back home to play Baltimore. If that's the case, then I see them just losing a nail biter on a kick at the end. That's just going to be one of those games that they're just not going to be able to pull off. And for some reason, just based on how you would have told me any other time, you know, Ravens at home. Like I wanted the Christmas Day rematch is what I really wanted here. Didn't get it. On that one, I would have taken a win, but for some reason, just where it's falling right here, I'm going to go loss.
All right. So that's the end of the third quarter of the season. Dave, what do we have so far?
Well, we were all 3-1 in that quarter again. Okay. So ultimately, Jeff is 10-2, and I am 9-3, and Bryan is 8-4.
8-4. All right, let's get to this super chat real quick before we go into the last quarter. Kyle Smith gives us $5 as it's totally not relevant other than he talked to Mark Davison about it. Tebow, he said he's pumped with nostalgia and excitement. Here's $5. Thank you for the tip, Kyle. Timmy Tebow might be back. I don't like to talk about that. Okay, with the Broncos. So let's go to the last quarter. Thursday night football. The Steelers go from playing the Ravens at 4:25 at home to going on the road on a short week to play at Minnesota Kirk Cousins and the boys. And this will be on Fox / the NFL Network / Amazon streaming, 8:20 start. I hate Thursday Night Football. Bryan, what do you think?
The last time they played the Minnesota Vikings in Minnesota was 2005 when the Steelers won the Super Bowl.
Wow.
Why is that?
Because they played in London the last time.
Okay, Thunder Steeler.
You asked the question, I answered it.
Yes, but I was. Why is that?
Oh, I didn't realize it was rhetorical.
It was rhetorical. It was rhetorical. But no, you're absolutely right. And yeah, that was that 0-4 start, the London game. So they actually haven't even played in the stadium yet. So this is the first time in that newer stadium in Minnesota. Minnesota's a weird team. You know, Cousins could be good, and you got Dalvin Cook there. You have that young receiver in Jefferson. You have Adam Thielen. I mean, they have a lot of firepower. They have a defense? I know they're trying to build one. I just really think that this could be a game that the Steelers this will be close, and it could be a toss-up. It could go any way, but I'm going to say it goes to the Pittsburgh Steelers. 9-4, baby.
Short week, coming off of a very physical game, and I had them winning against the Ravens. I think they're going on the road. I think this is a recipe for disaster. I have them losing this game to the Vikings, and that's going to surprise a lot of people. But they always have that stinker, and we all know it. It comes every year. So, Dave, what do you think?
Dude, what is my problem? Why can I not? I listened to Jeff, and then I forget what Bryan had said.
Bryan has a W for the Steelers.
Bryan has a W. That's what I thought. This is the end of this schedule was brutal. Out of the last 6 games that the Steelers play, 5 of them were against teams that were in the playoffs last year. This is the only game of a team that's not. And it's on the road, on a short week, on a Thursday, after playing the Ravens. I think Jeff is right that this is a recipe for disaster. Not a lot of recovery time after what is normally a physical game against the Baltimore Ravens. And for that reason, I just think it's going to be really tough for them to pull this one off. So I'm going to put it as a loss.
All right. Next week, week 15, the Steelers go back to Heinz Field. They host the Tennessee Titans. Bud Dupree coming back to Pittsburgh. That'll be an interesting matchup. This is a tough game, physical game, rematch of last season. What do you think, Bryan?
Man, I love me some Bud. Love to see him there. This defense in Tennessee is really getting tough. And as long as Ola Denny doesn't beat us, I'm fine. But really, I think Pittsburgh actually matches up fairly well against the Tennessee Titans, even though they have that really tough running game. But they were able to get to Tannehill early and often last year, even though they surrendered a lot in the second half. But you got to realize that they were up so much that game was never really felt in doubt. I know for some people it felt in doubt, but I really think that the Steelers continue to have this team's number. They do rise up against good teams, especially at home. I'm going to go ahead and give them a win, but once again, a really good matchup.
This is a game where, for me, it's a mini bye. The mini bye after a Thursday night game, they're coming back home. They're going to be refocused. I think the Steelers win this one. What about you, Dave?
Yeah, I like that it's the mini bye. I like that it's at home. I like that it's the Titans. The Steelers have not lost to the Titans since 2013. They've won 3 straight against them. For some reason, it just kind of feels like that's a good matchup for the Steelers. They've got to find wins somewhere in these last 6 games. And if I had them losing 2 in a row, so I have them bouncing back here to get a win. All
right, very good. Now it gets dicey. The last 3 games. And it starts in week 16 where the Steelers go on the road to Arrowhead. This is a 4:25 kickoff, not a night game. It's probably national, but again, 4:25 CBS game.
December if it doesn't end up on Monday night.
Yeah, December 26th, the day after Christmas. The Steelers will be playing the Kansas City Chiefs in Kansas City. Bryan, what do you think?
Wow, that is a rabid place to play. I know they were absolutely crazy there in Kansas City. The Steelers have had success in Kansas City over the years, and then sometimes not. So where are they going to be in this game? I'm actually thinking that KC is still probably favorites to win the Super Bowl, to get back to the Super Bowl at least. I think this is a tough matchup for the Steelers with all of the firepower. Pittsburgh's secondary, that's still not resolved against guys like Tyreek Hill. I'm just going to go ahead and say this is going to be a really tough one, and let's give Pittsburgh the loss in this game.
This will be a really good measuring stick game for the Steelers, and if our predictions are correct, especially mine, they will be a playoff-bound team, and you're going up against arguably the best team in the AFC. I think this is going to be a tough game. I think the Steelers hang tough, but I don't see them winning this one. I have them losing on the road. What about you, Dave?
Yeah, and what's interesting is even if we were having this discussion the night before week 1, there's so much that can change by the time you get to week 16 that it might, you might look at this, you're like, oh man, this is the toughest game on the schedule. And it might not be by that time. Or it might be that this is the most completely out of reach game on the schedule based on injuries and whatnot for either team. This is a game that the Steelers do not have to win. They just need to play well and show that they can contend with Kansas City in Kansas City. Therefore, it's really tough to say that you think they're going to win this game. I think they can. I'm just not going to pick them to.
Okay. All right. Real quick, Mark Davison gives us $5 dingo dollars and says, "Good day, fellas. The last 4 games are, like my dog says, rough. Let's go. Baker sucks." Baker does suck. Baker Mayfield sucks. That's my favorite saying. All right. So let's talk about Baker Mayfield. Monday Night Football, ESPN, Week 17. The Stains come to Pittsburgh. And Browns, Steelers, again, Monday Night Football, 8:15 kickoff Eastern time. Bryan, you had them losing in Cleveland, I believe. What do you have about Week 17?
I have them losing again. I just don't
getting swept by the Browns. Are you serious?
Yeah, I actually do. I think that last stretch of schedule is really rough. I just don't think that there's something about the Browns where I don't think they feel that they have it, even though they won a big game 38-7 last year. I'm just not seeing this. I think the Browns are going to be on this amazing high. So I'm going to say a loss again, because I think this is going to be a closer to 500, even though they can't be 500 schedule than and I feel that I went a little more optimistic in this schedule release than I should have. So I'm actually going to say they're going to lose to the Browns.
I don't have them getting swept by the Browns. I actually have them sweeping the Browns. I think this is going to be personal for the Steelers. They will not forget about the playoff loss, all those things. I'm sure the Browns are going to be talking up Juju's that the Browns is the Browns, and all that stuff will still be being discussed. I have the Steelers winning this game on Monday night, coming off of the loss to the Chiefs on the week before. What about you, Dave?
Well, Bryan had them going 0-2 against the Browns. You have them going 2-0, so I guess I should just have them with the split, but I'm not going to. I have them beating the Browns because this is the game they need to win to lock up a playoff position. And they're not going to be in contention for the number 1 seed based on my predictions. So this is the game, just like last year. You need that win in week 16 is what they did last year. Obviously, it's the week 17 this year, and it's prime time. Therefore, I'm saying get the win against the mistake by the lake and get to 11 wins at that point.
All right, so we finish up week 18. That's still weird to say. The Steelers will travel to M&T Bank. There's no more big trusts to meet me outside the bank or anything like that, but they'll be there at M&T Bank Stadium in Baltimore. 1:00 kick, but remember, all of them are 1:00 because they wait until they figure out which game is the most attractive to bump to Sunday Night Football. But Bryan, Sunday, January 9th, what are your thoughts on that matchup?
All right, man. I tell you what, I let down a lot of people by having the Browns.
They're not happy with you.
They're not. And you know what? I hate doing that, but how often am I right when it comes to this stuff? So let's just say this. I actually, I want to believe that I'm right in this one. It's at Baltimore. I feel like the Steelers actually do better in Baltimore sometimes. I think they're going to go ahead and win this game because it's going to be on the line. They're going to need this game to get into the playoffs. as a wild card. So I'm going to go ahead and take the Steelers over the Ravens. I just believe in that, and they're going to finish at 11-6.
All right. I said it earlier. I'm going to stick to it that I think the Steelers and the Ravens split. I had the Steelers winning at home. I think they lose on the road to finish out the regular season. My hope is that this game doesn't mean anything, that they can rest some players, that they don't need Ben Roethlisberger to play, that they might have TJ Watt resting again, and that if they lose this game, it's not the end of the world. I have the Steelers losing in Week 18. Dave, what about you?
Yeah, this game might not matter to either team.
Right, you're right.
Which would be kind of nice if that was the case. But I'm going to do the unthinkable, and I'm going to pull a bat, and I'm going to have the Steelers getting swept by the Ravens, only because they don't need to beat them there. But this is a really tough stretch at the end. And the Steelers, we break it into quarters. We just kind of lump the last 5 games together. They need to find a way to win 2 of those 5. And if they drop another one in there, then I think this is one that they could pull off if they absolutely had to, like Bad was saying. But I penciled in as a loss because I have it that the Steelers are more concerned after having a Week 7 bye and after playing 10 straight games, this being the 11th one, that they would rather rest their guys. And if they're not winning the North and they're not hosting a game, that they don't really care about getting a better matchup. And 11 wins, even with 17 games, gets them to the postseason, but they don't need to win the last one.
All right. So what are the totals there, Dave?
All right. So I think, hold on, let me double check. Bryan and I both have the Steelers going 11-6, while Jeff has them going 12-5.
Yay me! I win.
Yeah, but Jeff and I both had them going 2-3 over those final 5 games. I really think that Minnesota game, that's a big wild card there. That's just, it's not the team they're playing, it's the situation they're in, but we know that we do this now when it's all for fun, but it's going to be, I said it to Bryan 2 years ago, or sorry, maybe 2 seasons ago. We had that game against Buffalo in December in 2019, that when we were going over the schedule, that was one of the Steelers' easier games on paper before the season started. And then Buffalo had a big turnaround, and that became one of their toughest games down the stretch, and one they did not win. So it's just one of those things that we never know how things we could be looking at. Wouldn't it be crazy if we're looking at the Browns and the Ravens in week 17 and 18 and saying about how they're so tough, and here one of them is like completely out of contention because things just totally fell apart. We want it to be one of them and not ourselves. So, because it could very well happen to one of those 3 teams.
I'm going to put it this way. A lot of people were saying, oh, you guys are using your black and gold glasses and you're too optimistic. How many people had 11-0 to start the season last year? Anyone?
Nobody.
Anyone?
Besides you, Jeff?
Besides me, because I really struggle with picturing the Steelers ever losing a game. But that's just me. I've always been that way. My brother will still send me a text tomorrow and say 16-0, right, Jeff? Okay. Or 17-0, sorry. You never know what's going to happen. No one would have predicted 11-0 to start last season. And I understand, and Joe Mannix in the live chat says there was a weak schedule. The schedule based on last season, meaning the winning percentage of last season, like Dave said, is irrelevant. Teams change so much with free agency, the draft, everything. Honestly, let's just see how it plays out. Because no one saw 11-0, and that's exactly what happened. You can talk about how they finished poorly down the stretch. Okay, again, I just don't understand, and I don't want to get into this. We're already over the time, but I don't understand how people can say, like, last year the Super Bowl window is open and now it's closed. Just what? Because they finished poorly? Because it was such a weird year and they had to play how many games in a row? 13 straight games down the stretch because their bye week got all jacked up. I just don't buy it. I don't buy it at all. I think this is still a good football team. Yes, it hinges on Ben. It always hinges on Ben, people. It's always going to be that way. So I'll get off of my horse now, or my soapbox. And Bryan, if you have any final thoughts, you can go ahead and go.
Yeah, that's one of the tough things to look at here, because that Minnesota game that Dave picked the Steelers to lose, hey, they might be playing Kellen Mond that week. Somebody's going to get hurt,
or
quarterbacks are going down. You know what I mean. Nobody ever expected the Steelers season in 2019 to go the way it did, because didn't expect to lose Ben for the entire season that year either. So it's crazy to look at here. The Browns and the Ravens, like Dave said, one of them could not be who we think they are. That's the possibility. If you look at the Steelers every single year, they're consistently fighting for a playoff spot. They didn't always get in, but they're fighting for a spot. 8-8. There's not going to be an 8-8 this year, but 8-8's the worst you've ever seen from Mike Tomlin in his history. And I kind of agree with Jeff. Do you really think that after last year and the changes that were made this year, I kind of think they've got a better roster heading into the season this year than they do last year. Everybody wants to hang the offensive line out to dry and say that it is so bad, and drafting Najee Harris is not going to fix the fact that you have a rough offensive line. But think about it. It's completely different, but the changes that have been made are changes that will make the running game better, even though the changes have been made. A lot of you wanted Alejandro Villanueva and Marquise Pouncey gone. Now you're lamenting the fact that they're not here. So with that being said, it's really tough to not just pick the schedule like Dave and I did. I mean, that was almost impossible trying to figure out where they're going to put them. But it's kind of really tough to pick the games right now too, because a lot of these games could go in completely different ways, but it's fun to do, and that's why we do it.
All right, Dave, final thoughts. What do you have to say?
Yeah, Bryan said you never know in that Minnesota game you could be facing Kellen Mond. Or do you know what's crazy? I said about how the Steelers, 5 of their last 6 games were against teams that made the postseason last year. The only one that they play in there is Minnesota on the road on a short week, being on Thursday night. For all we know, going into those last 6 games, that might be the toughest game they have. Minnesota might come out and be this great team. We don't know. Then you look at someone like Tennessee that's been solid for a couple years. Do you realize that in his 5 years in the NFL, Derrick Henry has only missed 2 games? He's only missed 2 regular season games. That does not happen. And that's actually, I'll tease my stat geek in the morning. It's about how running backs miss games. And if he's out for the Titans for a significant portion, he is due to miss some time with the number of carries and stuff that he's had. If he misses some time this year, maybe the Titans are a team that a game that you think might have been tough there isn't as much, which is ironic because we all penciled that in as a win. But it just goes to show you don't know how these things are going to shape up. Even 2 seasons ago, look at other teams looking at how they're playing. And next thing you know, they're not playing the Ben Roethlisberger Steelers. They were playing the Mason Rudolph and Duck Hodges Steelers. That you just never know. We're so optimistic about the things that the Steelers have added. I am for sure. And I'm just hoping it comes together. You just got to see if it's the right fit. There's a lot of pieces that are more pieces than I can remember for a while, with the number of coaches, the number of free agents gone, everything that they've done. A lot of pieces still got to come and fit together for it to all work out very nice. Do I think it could happen that way? Yes, it very well could, but I don't know that it definitely will. And that's why they play the games, and that's why we tune in, and that's why it's so much fun. So I just can't wait to be waving my towel again, whether it's sitting in section 122, sitting on my couch, or sitting next to one Jefferson Hartman. It doesn't really matter. I just can't wait to watch Steelers football again.
Absolutely. And we'll be here every step of the way at BehindTheSteelCurtain.com. Should be your one-stop shop for all things Pittsburgh Steelers. Wherever you get your podcast, make sure that you subscribe, follow, do whatever you have to do. You can search Steelers or Behind the Steel Curtain if you listen on iTunes, and I know a lot of you do. Please, or Apple Podcasts, please give us a 5-star rating if you like the content, as well as a good comment. We appreciate it. Also, subscribe to the YouTube channel. My gosh, I'm asking you to do a bunch of stuff. It's not that big, though. Like the videos, all that good stuff. All right, gentlemen, thank you very much. We appreciate all of your work, all the people that were here for the live chat. You all were great. We'll see how it pans out. We have a long off season now. Now we hit the dog days. Dave, why don't you finish it up for us?
Hey.
We'll see you next week on a Thursday for another Steelers preview. Take it easy.